Today I want to talk about a moment that was brought up out of concern when Jin was rushed to the hospital. We have a newer moment that people connected to that older moment of why people believe Jin might be really badly injured in the military. Let's talk about it. And then we have HYBE being mentioned, and they were quite upset, it seems. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai, hater or not, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on, grab your dumpling, taste spilling mug merch, and let's go. The drama, the K-drama if you will, between SM and HYBE continues. What maybe started as a simple acquisition where maybe SM wasn't doing so well and just needed someone to take over, turned into seemingly a family battle. The former CEO, Lee Soo-man, had stepped down, and essentially when the biggest stakeholder went to HYBE and was signed over to HYBE, everything that Lee Soo-man had been a part of was going to be done. This was supposed to be it, and then maybe Lee Soo-man would just retire on a beach somewhere. What ended up happening here is that Lee Soo-man's nephew ended up taking the place of CEO. His name is Lee Sung-soo. After HYBE took their share, Lee Sung-soo came out and made a video exposing everything. I will get into what the video alleges, but I think this is very unprofessional, messy, and unnecessary. What is supposed to be a stressful time not only for HYBE but for the other SM investors has now turned into this family war that the investors did not sign up for. And ultimately what Lee Sung-soo did could possibly be shooting himself in the foot. Lee Sung-soo alleged in a video to talk about how Lee Soo-man had a company overseas in Hong Kong to avoid paying taxes. Lee Sung-soo alleges that a lot of the SM money went to this new company in Hong Kong, and this would have been considered a tax write-off for SM. And then Hong Kong has extremely low tax rate and has many laws to benefit businesses. And this is not an uncommon allegation that a lot of CEOs get. So feel free to look into it. Lee Sung-soo also is reported to continue to talk about how with all of this going on, did HYBE know before signing on that Lee Soo-man had all these alleged branches in small companies that HYBE would have to deal with. And of course, if there is tax evasion here, HYBE would have to deal with that, which is a lot more than what HYBE would want. My question here is, as the CEO, or at the time about to be CEO, wouldn't you be in the same room when the signing happens? So you'd probably know. Or at least as current CEO, wouldn't you be aware of the contracts between HYBE and SM? And could you just get a copy? Can't you just take a look before making a YouTube video alleging that HYBE doesn't know about any of this? HYBE came out and said that they made sure that within one of the clauses of the contract that it stated that any ties that Lee Soo-man had would be nullified. HYBE continued to talk about that since SM is a publicly traded company, all of this should have been public knowledge, and why was this hidden? And from this, you could tell that HYBE was quite annoyed at the situation. And what I meant earlier by Lee Sung-soo might have shot himself in the foot is he is currently running SM. He is going to want as many investors as possible, and which investor is going to want to be a part of all this drama? But of course, there could be something going on behind the scenes that I am unaware of, and he is doing this for another reason, but we won't know. People have not only been concerned over HYBE and SM, people are concerned over Jin and what is happening with him. Before I get into that, I need to get into what happened to Jin a little while ago and how that affects why people are concerned over Jin right now. A little while ago, we got news that Jin was rushed to the hospital. On March 19th, Big Hit released their infamous "Hello, this is Big Hit" music statements and shocked everyone over something no one knew about. This was over a strange incident in which Jin had injured his finger. The doctors the night before talked about severely injuring his finger tendon and needed surgery. It appeared like he injured his finger during practice and he must have broke it or something. Jin had been injured for a little bit before then, and I guess at first it seemed like maybe he was just thinking it wasn't a big deal, but it eventually got to the point where headlines were saying that he needed emergency surgery. This all came at a really bad time, and it was in the midst of BTS doing Butter. Of course, this was going to be a bad time if Jin had injured himself during a comeback, because he wouldn't be in rehearsal if he wasn't doing a comeback. And this was right at the time of the Grammys. So of course, Jin could not perform. He was urged to wear a huge cast. It sounds silly to a lot of people to stop a performance over a finger, because it's not like he needs his finger to perform. But it's a pretty intense surgery, and with any surgery, this is a huge toll on the body. Doctor's orders told Jin to sit out, and Big Hit decided it was best to follow. Jin sat out for the Grammys with a big hand cast. BTS covered this up very well with the new dance routine, and Jin had played a spy that was just watching the boys from monitors. Jin shortly after was so affected by this emotionally that he talked about how he felt like he was a burden to the other members. And so even just a simple injury that is not a huge deal ended up being something very traumatic to the boys. This all affects how the fandom ends up feeling every time the boys get injured, because not only does it affect the performances and the fact that the members is in actual pain, but it affects the boys' mental health too, all of which is quite sad to hear about. Now, of course, given the history of this and how the boys are so accident prone and surgery prone, it was already a concern when he enlisted into the military and he was going to be getting into accidents or hurting himself a lot more. And this was all bound to happen. Jin isn't chasing rainbows in the military. He's playing around with guns and grenades. Any small injury is almost a blessing compared to the tragedy that could happen. Within the last few weeks or so, Jin had his award ceremony and several people from the outside were invited to come to the show. People like maybe Jin's family and of course news outlets. A video came out by Star News Korea to show that Jin at this said award ceremony before he gets shipped off to his more permanent location. And in this ceremony, we got to see Jin take leadership and really own the role that was given to him as Captain Korea. He showed high marks on all of the military activities, and of course, this meant that he was going to take a more leadership position. In the clip Star News posted on TikTok, we could hear Jin's voice and him guiding along the ceremony. Once this clip was posted, it very quickly went viral, and people were leaving comments to say that they were so proud of Jin. It's very nice to not only see Jin lately and in real time, but to hear him as we hadn't heard his real voice in a long time. And by real voice, I don't mean that the videos he has are his fake voice, but just how his voice sounds most recently. He had some pre-recorded videos that had come out and we got to hear Jin be really sweet, but this was all before the enlistment. This was all great, but people very quickly also noticed that Jin was moving his shoulders around and looked a bit uncomfortable. He was rolling it back a few times and it appeared like he was just trying hard to adjust his back. Of course, many people don't take this long to stand up straight or adjust themselves, so it became a concern to ARMY if anything was wrong. Many thought that maybe he was injured and many commented to say that it looked like he was severely hurt. Some others just thought that it wasn't a big deal and that he was just adjusting, as I mentioned. And of course, this idea of if maybe the uniform was just uncomfortable or if he had an itchy back and he just couldn't itch. It's definitely likely that Jin could be injured. Of course, we won't know unless Big Hit or Jin says so himself, but it's as good of a guess as anyone's if he's hurt or not, as anyone in the military has several activities that could cause a shoulder injury. Even simply their warm-ups in the morning and just daily exercises are pretty tough for most people to do. And I would assume I would get very sore and probably break a bone or two doing them. Things like jogging, push-ups, high knees, butt kicks, and just learning the ability to fight. All of these things, if not done properly, and even if done properly, can result in severe injuries. Many people were just very upset at how the military is treating Jin or if he's being hurt there. But these are not particularly anything that anyone has never done in the military. And doing them is usually not dangerous, even if some people believe they are. There's also this idea that if this is an injury, it happened during the tactical march. Tactical march is definitely considered more dangerous, but nothing unique to what Jin has been doing. If you don't know what the tactical march is, you are supposed to walk very far during that tactical march and with very heavy equipment. It's supposed to resemble you going into battle for real. So you'll be attacked at all angles while you have all the equipment on you. It's very possible that you could get an injury there. However, I would not worry. As we have seen many times before, if there is any danger of any actual injury, he would be admitted to the hospital. I think people like to place the blame on the military or on HYBE when they see the boys injured and not getting any medical help. But a lot of the times, it's the boys hiding it from the public or from HYBE, so they don't have to take a break. Suga did this for a long time with his shoulder injury just because he was scared if he took too much time off or the sales of HYBE starts to drop, that HYBE would drop Suga. No one can 100% for sure say that in the past that would have not happened, because labels do this all the time and it's just business. So Suga has a right to have this fear. Jin may want to serve his full time in the military and just get it over with and doesn't feel like his injuries could be enough to take a break, or he doesn't want to worry ARMY. This is of course if the injury is real. But I'm curious to know what you think about all this. How do you feel about HYBE possibly being upset with all of this drama surrounding SM? How do you feel about Jin needing finger surgery and then people being very concerned over any new injuries? And of course, how do you feel about him possibly being injured in his shoulder? Do you think that he is injured there? Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.